yeah, we on a sister ship. Come with us, we on a sister ship. Yeah, we on a sister ship. Roll with us, we on a sister ship. Sistahship, we got it. Got this now, come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistahship, we got this now, come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistahship, we got this now, come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistahship, we got this now, come on, let's talk about it. We're my sisters, we got these sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. We're my sisters, we got these sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. Success, oh! Sis, you know we on a mission, no games. Help each other get over some things. Real strength, free change. Cause we've been through the rain. Now it's time to shine like a blaze. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to right will. We rolling out of poverty, love, heal. So we become the prodigy of how a sistahship could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands, support each other's dreams and our plans, doing everything we can just to show we understand the power of a friendship, family, life on purpose. Together we learn it there. Let's talk. We don't want to see you hurt and be here for each other, no matter the color. Networking, that's for sure and for certain. Yeah, we on a sistahship. Go with us, we on a sistahship. Yeah, we on a sistahship. Roll with us, we on a sistahship. We're my sisters, we got these sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. We're my sisters, we got these sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. Sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Hey, we on a sistahship. We on a sistahship. Jane, it is all yours. Woo-hoo!
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on the Midday Tea. I am normally not your host. However, I do want to extend deepest sympathy to Sharice and her family for the loss of her brother. And she is usually the host here along with Daisy Day. And Daisy has decided to go and show support to Sharice and her family. So we're grateful for that. I hope I can fill those big shoes that they have every week here on the Midday Tea. Those of you that watch the Sunday show, we are extending that subject matter in regard to sex trafficking with our guest, Carol Anderson again. Carol is an advocate for women, survivors of violence, trauma, and addiction, and is the founder of a community-based nonprofit whose mission is to empower women, survivors to heal, recover, and rebuild their lives. She's married to Steve, and she's a proud mom of 3 boys. Welcome, Carol. We're glad you came back. Thank you.
For having me.
Thank you. And along with Carol, we have Annie. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate you being here. Annie, you have struggled with addiction and trauma for more than 25 years. She is a single mom with 3 adult daughters and has come to Bloom to change her life. You are a warrior, Annie. I hope you know that. You are truly an inspiration. And I hope we can get a message out for you and anyone that's enthralled in sex trafficking or any of these addictions. And hopefully, Carol, you can help us do that. I think it's a subject that we unfortunately don't talk enough about. If we put our head in the sand, we don't really have to deal with it, right? I mean, isn't that kind of, unfortunately, the culture of our society sometimes in some of these really hard subjects that are hard to talk about? But just a little statistics, and then of course, I'll turn it over to the 2 of you. But Pennsylvania, unfortunately, is the 4th nation for the number of active criminal human trafficking cases. And that's scary because I've never, in all the work I've done with women's resources, we've never really looked at statistics in regard to sex trafficking or, you know, the things that Bloom has reached out to so many women to help change their lives. And, you know, it's interesting that not only Pennsylvania, but Washington, D.C., I think it's Nevada and Florida, they have the highest sex trafficking in the nation. So, you know, when you look at those statistics, and I'm not a real statistic type of person, but for these type of things, I think you do have to look at it, because when you see the high percentages of it, I think as a community, you want to know, well, what are we doing about it in not just the world, not just the United States, but you know, in our own little section of the world, in our community. So Carol, if you could just elaborate a bit. I know you went through a lot of this on Sunday's show, but you know, where is Bloom? What exactly do they do or offer? That type of information quickly.
Okay, quickly.
Well, I really want to
No.
get to the nuts and bolts of Annie and your mission, truly bring your mission to light of what you do there. Quickly.
I know. No, I want to, I think what's important is I want to set the stage before our courageous friend Annie shares about her strength and hope that she finds daily. I want to just kind of, you know, a follow-up on what you shared with. It's very true. The statistics do tell a story. And just as in any other public health issue, and we know that domestic violence is a public health issue, so is commercial sexual exploitation. And sex trafficking, you know, is a term that it's an important term to use, because there are laws on the books that include that language of sex traffic. And I think what's important to know is that there is a lot that what does that term mean, and what does that define? And I think for the purposes of our discussion today, we can define sex trafficking as commercial sexual exploitation. Okay, so any attempt or attempted abuse of position of vulnerability, differential power or trust for sexual purposes. And I think that's important to understand, that it's not only limited to profiting monetarily, socially, or politically from the sexual exploitation of another, but it includes transactional sex, survivor sex, as well as solicitation of transactional sex. So if you solicit sex for housing, drugs, food. This is severe forms of trafficking people. It is a position of power and vulnerability that are skewed, and the effect that has on our society when this is allowed to continue and when it is ignored, as in the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Yes.
It has brought it to light in so many different ways, the horrific injustice that those who are vulnerable continue to experience because they are criminalized over and over. This is what we need to put a stop to. And one way of doing that is to become an attorney and to become very loudmouthed and get out there in the political arena, as well as, you know, where you can make a real difference in the justice initiatives to make this happen. That's not what we do at Bloom. But I want people to kind of understand where we're coming from. Sex trafficking, one of the myths around that is that it's the white van that pulls up in front of a playground or a schoolyard or a mall and grabs someone and pulls them in. I mean, that does happen, but that's very, very rare and far and few between. But what does happen is the grooming of a victim, targeting women in positions of vulnerability, and then making promises of security. I'll give you, you'll never need anything. I'll supply drugs for you. These kinds of ongoing promises of, you know, that's what we're talking about here. So it's, okay. I think it's understanding the issue and really where the law could come in, and anyone with transactional sex like this, there are ways that it's criminal and yes, can be tried in a court of law. That being said, When you mentioned that Pennsylvania is fourth for the number of cases, I've been searching on the news since I learned on Monday that the hotel owner of the Howard Johnson in Bartonsville was convicted on 4 counts of sex trafficking. That, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it did not make the news. Did not make the news.
No, I haven't heard about it.
Right. So these people were arrested 4 years ago in October of 2016. That made the news. They were arrested, and for 4 years, this case has been waiting to be brought to justice. They were just convicted on 4 counts of sex trafficking. That Howard Johnson's is going to become the property of the federal government, and these people are going to jail. But it took 4 years.
Right.
These owners and hotel managers were part of the sex trafficking scheme, where they were letting men that were in charge of this ring and women live in the hotel. They were requiring these women to stay there, providing them with transactional sex. And then these women were working for their trafficker, being provided with drugs months at a time. So that's what we're talking about.
It's horrifying.
Because these women are arrested and charged with prostitution, people are judging and criminalizing them, and no one's getting better. The real victims in this crime are the vulnerable women, and then, you know, it goes on from there. So
Yes.
That was a lot, but thank you for letting me
No, that was absolutely, you know, it's interesting to me how certain stories hit the news and certain stories do not. But my question to you then, Carol, is how would you say the courts or law should expedite these types of cases? I mean, how do we prioritize them to be a top priority? I guess is what I'm saying to you.
Well, I think it's a great question, and I wish I knew the answer to that question, but I don't. And the injustice of what is going on, you know, and even some of the cases, we know this in other areas of law, but sometimes those that are prosecuting these cases have to focus in on maybe 1 or 2 of the indictments that are the most promising, that they have the most evidence to get across. So a trafficker might be arrested and he might have 5 women that he's being indicted for. So the 5 different indictments for trafficking, and one of them is a minor. I'm just giving you an example of a real situation. Right. And because they had a minor, they only chose to prosecute the 1 minor charge. And so the other 3 or 4 survivors that should have had justice for the crimes against them, they ignored it and only prosecuted the 1 because that was the most likely to get a conviction. They had the most evidence in the case. So I'm in response to that, yes. I'm not smart enough, nor do I understand the law enough to answer that question. But the other way where all of us have an opportunity to be part of this fight is where we can empower women like Annie, our sisters, mothers, daughters, friends. We can say, I believe in you and I'm going to come alongside you and make a difference. And this is where I felt that I could put my efforts. I spent a couple years working with women's resources and saw the injustice that was going on, and knowing that there was this unique set of people. There was people that were women, my sisters, our daughters, friends, that had no one helping them. In Northeast Pennsylvania, there are no programs like Bloom. And what we offer to the survivor of commercial sexual exploitation who is also struggling with an addiction is 2 years of rent-free housing and the opportunity to heal and rebuild her life.
So in that program, I mean, do you have employers who, you know, offer to give them jobs? Do you have psychologists, psychiatrists? What is the process, I guess, or what's the responsibility of the women like Annie living in your housing? What's the, you know, what do they have to be accountable for to stay there?
A lot, and I'll let Annie, maybe, do you mind sharing?
Yeah, Annie, I would love for you to speak.
Yeah, I will let you know that we have a partnership with a treatment center. So our program is twofold. We work with survivors, and they also are overcoming an addiction. And we work with a treatment provider that provides, you know, professional treatment for that. But I'll let Annie maybe tell you a little bit about what it's like to live at Bloom.
Sure.
But
Hi.
Andy, I want to thank you again for coming on. Very courageous, and it's humbling
I
to
appreciate it. I
you,
appreciate it.
because I just think it's so brave of you to come forward to help and maybe bring light. Maybe someone listening knows someone or has seen something, and we're going to talk about that later on what to watch for. But yeah, please share what it's like living in Bloom.
Okay, so I'll just start off by just saying that, you know, I've struggled with addiction, and which had led me to prostitution for like a very long time, almost over 25 years. So I felt like I needed a long-term program to change I've tried to stay clean like many times, and it didn't, you know, nothing ever worked. And you know, I came to treatment. I kind of took my hands out of it and just said, you know, God's going to bring me wherever I need to be. And, you know, I went to treatment. I was there for 3 weeks, and I came to Bloom, you know, so like, it was scary. Like I was scared, but they were very welcoming, and, you know, believed in me. And I think when I didn't believe in myself, and them believing in me, like, helped keep me on that path, you know, staying as uncomfortable as it was for
Right. How
me.
did you find Bloom, if you don't mind me interrupting? How
The
did you?
treatment center, a treatment center that I was at, found Bloom.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, and I'm super grateful for that.
Yes. So go
Yeah,
ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So you know, when I got there, it was required I work 90 meetings in 90 days. I went through a recovery center, and I still attend that. We go to groups. I went to groups probably twice a day, I think, in the beginning for the first couple of weeks. And then I also do counseling through there. I see 2 counselors actually, one for trauma and just a regular counseling session. And so for the first 90 days, I was able to like focus on myself and learn how to sit with myself, and you know, pay attention like to what other people that are recovering, or, you know, were doing. And I just had no clue.
Right.
I really was like at my wit's end, and I thought I was just going to die a drug addict. And, you know, I think when I came here, I was able to see different. And I really feel like the empowerment that Carol's talking about and that they showed me, you know, really gave me strength to keep going, even when I was uncomfortable, or even when I wanted to give up, or even when I didn't think I was good enough or I deserved it. You know, it kept me going. And so once I made it through, once you make through the first 90 days, then like I was able to start working, which I work here at the studio, which is through the Bloom program.
Right.
And I felt like for me, you know, it was my way of giving back to the people that are giving so much to me to help me live a good life and change my life around. So, you know, and it's a good opportunity to be a part of too. And I get to be a part of the community, learn, you know, meet people that are in the community, the people that actually, you know, help and support us. And, you know, it continues to help me stay on my path. Even through like now, like I have 8 months clean. And like I've been able to get my license back since I've been here. I've got my relationships back with my children, which didn't talk to me when I first got into treatment. I can show up for people today. I'm, you know, I hold a company credit card. So like I'm trusted, and
Yes.
like, and all those things continue to help me to continue to stay on this path, even, you know, despite how I feel sometimes, and despite when I think that I can't make it or I'm not good enough. Like I still struggle with those thoughts. And, you know, I think like I want to just help other women. And, you know, I was in a time in my addiction where I would say, you know, I'm never going to be a prostitute. I'm never going to sell myself for drugs. And, you know, that came to be my story. You know, I did do that. And then, you know, then you step it up again. Well, I won't have a pimp, right? And then I just before I came to treatment, I had almost been sucked into that. I was working with a gentleman, and he tried to move me to a different town. And I thought about it, you know, because I was such in the grip of my addiction that
Right.
Like I thought to myself, that's my only way to keep from being sick. That's my only way to not be cold at night. That's my only way that I can be fed, because I didn't have anything. Like I had lost everything and I was homeless and because of my addiction. And thankfully, you know, I listened. My daughter had called me and said, you know, Mommy, I can't go another night not knowing if you're going to be dead tomorrow. And something in me just said, like, I owe that to my daughter, you know, to
Right.
give it another shot, right? Like, this cannot be it.
Hey, sorry. Sorry. Hey, so sorry, Annie. Sorry.
That's okay. So I did go to the hospital. I let her, you know, I went with her to the hospital and I ended up in treatment. And then from treatment, I ended up here at Bloom, and it's been like a life-changing process. I've actually given myself an opportunity to like reap the benefits of recovery and to not believe those, thinking that like, you know, I'm not deserving, or I'm a bad person, or, you know, like I felt disgusting sometimes for the things that I did to stay high and to, you know, live. And I lost my self-worth, and like I gained all those things back, and I still gradually gain those things every day as I work on myself. And, you know, Bloom gives me that opportunity to do it. I don't have to worry about rent. I don't have to worry about paying lights, or I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about anything except to get better. And,
Right.
and like they really emphasize that, you know,
Right.
that this is about, yeah, this is my opportunity. And like this is like an opportunity of a lifetime. It's a gift, and I truly believe that. And I'm like more than grateful. Like words can't express how appreciative I am to have this opportunity.
Wow. Well, we have a lot of listeners, and I was wondering if you could share with us, like, what was the very beginning? Was it low self-esteem? Was it, you know, abuse in relationships? What do you think drew you to that life at the beginning?
Well, I grew up in a home where my dad was an alcoholic, and I was physically and, you know, mentally abused for, you know, my whole childhood. I also endured sexual abuse, not from my dad, but another family member, as a young child. So I grew up like angry. And I think like once I got in high school and people are experimenting with drugs, and then I started experimenting, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like I don't have to feel all this, you know, feelings of hopelessness and pain. And, you know, it just got me outside of myself, and where I was able
Right.
to numb those feelings of hurt that I, you know,
Mhm.
felt for so long. And then I went into a relationship at 17 with, which is the father of my kids, and he was an alcoholic. So we drank all the time. And then, you know, then I found harder drugs, and things just progressed. You know, I tried to maintain and be a mom and still work and still be a wife. And had I not had those things, I feel like I would have possibly died, you know, because I feel like, you know, there was some part of me that said, I am a mom, I am a wife,
Right.
you know, I have a job, like I had to show up for this stuff. But there comes a point in my recovery where those things just didn't matter anymore. I was in just such a grip of addiction that.
Right. So when I just want to back up for a minute, when you were being sexually assaulted, did you go to any of your family members and tell them what was going on?
No, I did not.
No.
Yeah, I was too ashamed. It was, yeah.
I wanted to just ask you that because so often, you know, that happens. Or you do tell someone, your mother, your father, an aunt, an uncle, and they, you know, they re-victimize you. You know,
Right.
they don't believe you. And I think in our society, we need to listen better. We need to be more observant of what goes on around us, particularly in our own families. I have two granddaughters, and I could tell you I'm constantly, well, Carol knows the work I do with women's resources, and I'm always talking to them about their private space, respecting, you know, making someone respect your space, and don't let people, oh, excuse me, don't let people touch you and that kind of thing. And I think you know, in our culture back, you know, backing up a few years, I know when I grew up, you know, being hit, being beaten, you know, watching your, in my case, my mom, um, it was sociably acceptable. You know, the cops would come, they'd pour my dad a shot of whiskey, give him a cigarette, take him outside, walk him around a little bit, and then say to my mom, you know, just don't aggravate him.
Right.
You know, that's kind of the way it was accepted.
Hmm.
And I think now women like yourself and Carol, the program that you have, uh, we're making women more aware that you know, they're not throwaways, that they have value. And no matter what you've done in your past, look, we all have a past. We've all done things we're not really proud of. But when you learn from that and you try to help others out of that, I think it just gives you so much more power to, you know, to be a good human, to be a better listener. And I'm sure, Annie, you not only give to the group at Bloom, but you also feel empowered by the things you've learned from them as well. Am I right? Or
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
We really strive to, if I can just interject here, I
yeah,
mean, Bloom, we really are a community. And what I think is important to just emphasize is that, you know, Annie didn't get to the point where she was when she first decided to go to the hospital alone. You know, there was a community around her of broken things, broken people, broken systems that allowed her to fall through the cracks time and time again from when she was a young child.
right.
And so we see this so often, more often than not. You know about the adverse childhood experiences score. And, you know, for those of us that have looked at our own life and seen how the increased vulnerability with a higher adverse childhood experiences score, and how when those systems aren't in place to help you rebuild or to keep from falling through some cracks, the devastation becomes so much greater. So it would be very likely to think, how is someone going to heal from those experiences?
Right.
Not alone, but in
Right.
community. And so Bloom really strives to become a community. We run a business in our town, which is, we're a nonprofit, but we run this business in our town so that we can engage with our community. And our goal is to employ more women in this business from our program so they can have dignified employment, so they can lead. These are intelligent women like you and I that work
Yes.
hard, that want to work
Yeah.
hard, that don't want to make widgets in the basement, or to be further victimized by working for an employer that is constantly hinting about trading sex for a raise. Come on.
Right.
This happens
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
We want to create a safe place so that women can work. I mean, honestly, what's so disappointing is that I've talked to women in our program that have gone to work in the food service industry, and they're constantly badgered by
Yes.
comments of even jokes of what's going on. And it fires me up and disturbs me so greatly that you can't even find employment where you're safe, even for a short period of time, of being
Right.
thought that you're a commodity. And that's
Right.
what you're good for. That if you're beautiful, or, you know, or if you're just a woman, that
Yes,
you
just
are
a woman.
commodity
Yep.
that can be bought and sold.
Mhm.
And that your tip's going to be greater if you show me a little cleavage. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I've got to stop that, because now my palms are starting to sweat. But what I want to do is just really say that this is so important that we get
Yes.
to work. We're following a model out of Nashville that when we started 5 years ago, there were 5 sister communities in our network around the country. There are more than 50. We have more than 325 beds for women just like Annie, our sisters, daughters, mothers, friends that are looking for a way out of the darkness. And we light a candle several days a week and say that we are lighting this for the next woman who's looking for a way home. And talking about issues like this, opening up more programs and spaces where women can heal, rest, take the time they need to rebuild their life. Annie and 3 of her sisters at the Bloom House are in college. They are pursuing COVID-proof employment because,
Right.
you know, it's going to be hard out there in the future.
Yes. Yes.
They're looking to educate themselves and find employment that can sustain pandemics as well as earn a reasonable and living wage to be able to go back and rebuild their life and reconnect with their family, their kids. We don't do
So,
it alone. So it's a
yeah.
community.
Carol, on that note, though, are you able to get into the school systems at a, to like preteens to tell them about these types of things that go on? Because I feel like it has to start at a younger level. Okay, to, like, for instance, Annie, if you had had an opportunity to sit in an auditorium at school and listen to these types of conversations, your life may have been different. You may have had hope sooner, is what I'm saying to you. There would have been some kind of communication or an advocate that you could have gone to. Because I could tell you, there are so many times just doing a table for women's resources at a, as a volunteer, people will come up and tell you their story. And you're like, oh my God, this is happening, I didn't have too long ago, it was 2 blocks away from me. And I was floored that these things were going on 2 blocks away from me in the very work that I do. So my question, I guess, Annie, is do you feel if this type of information had been brought to you in your preteens and you would have sat and listened, do you think that would have made a difference where you would have reached out sooner for help?
Yeah, I believe I believe that. I think that from what I experienced as a child, I thought like I didn't find it to not be normal. I thought that, like I was bad, I was wrong. I took a lot of the blame myself. So I didn't really realize, how I didn't understand really, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and Jane, that oftentimes children, when they are sexually abused especially, don't have the words to even describe what happened to them. So it's kind of a weird feeling to even say, this happened to me. I didn't know that was a thing,
Exactly. And I think when you, like Annie said, when you grow up in a household like that, it is the normal, it's your normal. And I know my own experiences, I could tell you, until I was maybe in my early teens, I went to a friend's house and her mom and dad were holding hands on the couch. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with them? Because my parents never did. All they did was fight, And I realized as I got older that my house was not the normal, that there was a better life out there. And so I really feel with women in the political field as they are now, that they might be the bridge for all of us to be able to get this message into the school system. The laws have to be changed, Carol. I don't have to tell you that. The laws need to be changed. Victims we need to have more survivors than we have victims. And we need to start it at an early age. What do you feel like you could do or you could offer in the school system, Carol, if that was an avenue to go to in regard to what you do? What do you think?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, my focus has been on the restoration side. I will tell you that this is hard work.
Yes.
It's hard. We receive no federal or state funding, no government funding. We don't have contracts with insurance companies that pay the bills, that put the heat in the house, that employ staff. I mean, this is all of our resources are raised by donations from individuals that give us money. So our focus has been primarily on that. And would I love to see a prevention side to this? Absolutely. I believe, there is material out there, and there are probably people out there that teach about trafficking prevention, vulnerability, that address vulnerability of young girls especially. I mean, it does happen to young boys and young men, but the majority, in the high 90% is this is happening to women and young girls. And even in a college setting, so while you asked the question, I'm not doing any prevention work, and I'm
asking, what would you,
what is needed?
If you could do it, where, what would you?
I would love to get 45 minutes with high school students, girls and boys alike, and talk about the dangers of just anyone appealing to any of your vulnerabilities. And what's going on now on the college campuses, if I can just talk about that.
Absolutely.
There's a website called Seeking Arrangements, and you're more than welcome to go there and see what that's all about. It looks beautiful. It sounds very classy and sexy. If you are a college-aged woman who needs extra money, you can sign up and become a sugar baby. And you can be connected with an older gentleman with wealth and means that can help you with, that can give you money. And the Seeking Arrangements will say that there is no sex involved, but we all know underlying all of this, especially men that are going on Seeking Arrangements as a sugar daddy, wanting to connect with women who, most of them are vulnerable. I mean, it can sound like a very empowering thing. And I talk to college students on occasion, and oftentimes I'll get the question, why I believe prostitution should be legalized. Why should you think, why would you vote against that when it's very empowering and I should be in charge of my own sexuality? But getting back to the Seeking Arrangements, what's going on here is not someone this is a person who's paying for something that thinks they deserve something. And violence, as you know, Jane, is a thread that is much more common than not. These women are in cases, they get themselves in positions of vulnerability where a sugar daddy might take them on an exotic vacation to a place out of the country. And then where are they going to go? And so they're giving in because they think it's expected. The sugar daddy, I mean, it's so horrific. I'm not even educated around it enough to talk about it, but it should be so shocking to us that our culture that continues to accept women as commodities, that they can be bought and sold, that they're further criminalized. We have to change the concept. And until, the laws are on the books, but until people start talking about it, like you said, we put our head in the sand, but our young women are very vulnerable. And this is not a glamorous, Seeking Arrangements is not a glamorous way to live and pay some of your college tuition. I mean, I think I looked on one seminar that I attended, one webinar that I attended, talked about how NYU, even though I know they have 30 to 40,000 students at their campus in New York City, close to 2,000 of them are women that are on Seeking Arrangements.
Oh my gosh.
This is all across our, it crosses, socioeconomic lines.
Right. And and that's only one site that you know of. I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of them.
Oh, the internet and social media has made this more and more apparent, and people are getting away with it. And men need to step up and say, we will end demand because we're not going to pay for this. This is not just the sexual violence that comes along with these crimes is beyond horrific. The assault that the women experience over and over and over again. It's that's why I think it's so important. The restoration side is so important, but certainly
absolutely.
Prevention, is key to stop it before it's happening, and giving our young women opportunities to,
and hope to know, like I said earlier, so often victims do not know where to go. And Annie, for you've been in rehab off and on. I just don't think the rehab time is enough. It's just not long enough. When you're enthralled in addiction, I don't think 30 days gives you the opportunity to get out of an addiction that you've been into for years. So when you were told about Bloom, from a facility you were in, do you think that, and Carol, you may want to answer this too, is that information available at most facilities, or were you just lucky enough that someone knew about Bloom and directed you there?
Yeah, I think I was just lucky enough that they knew about Bloom.
Right.
So I really don't know how the information gets out.
I mean, we've been very quiet about our work just because we only have 8 beds. And we did have the opportunity we were told, we had a very generous business owner in our area that talked to us about renovating a house, and that we were going to be getting it. And that has fallen through, unfortunately. But because, we have very limited resources, COVID has really set us back. We had to reduce our staff and limit the support to the women in the program, which, we're very concerned about because we don't have the resources. COVID has really had a significant impact on all nonprofits, including those of us that don't rely on contracts with the government, because we really don't want them telling us what to do anyway.
Exactly.
But we do know people at treatment centers. So, at any given time, we have 5 to 10 women on our waiting list. I think I have 4 right now that call fairly regularly that are inquiring about a bed. And we just added another one last week. So there are 5 now, but we're kind of quiet about this work. And you talked earlier about statistics. If I can share something with you, and next time I'm going to be more prepared, because I need to find out what the statistic is for long-term success for short-term treatment centers. Let me just ask Amy, how many treatment centers have you gone to over time?
7.
So she's been in 7 treatment centers. Another woman in our program who has some time behind her, went to 16. And that's it's a question we ask, how many treatment centers have you been to? But it doesn't really have bearing on whether or not, we feel you're appropriate for the program, because we haven't seen a correlation between the number of times you've been in treatment and the greater success, that you would have in Bloom.
Right.
But I think what's remarkable is the program in Nashville that has been doing this for 23 years, where they give women a place to live, give her all the resources that she needs to rebuild her life. She hits the ground running by, month 3, she's working already, repaying her fines, paying taxes, rebuilding her life. She starts going to school. I mean, these are things that Bloom requires. Like, you have to be working. This is not summer camp.
Right.
You hit the ground running. But the statistic is, if you stay in the program for at least 90 days and you start working and graduate, if you stay the full 2 years, the program has an 85% success rate, that if you stay the 2 years, you will stay clean for 5 years following graduation.
Oh, wow.
That statistic is remarkable.
Yes, it is.
That's for the program that has been doing this for 23 years. And, their budget each year, I think it's like $5 million a year. I mean, they have a big company, a social enterprise that they run. They sell their products in Whole Foods. They've been doing this. But I just ran our statistics the other day. And for those that have come through our program that have stayed the 90 days, that have started working, for those that have stayed clean and have graduated from the program, I think the statistic is like 78% of them will remain clean following graduation. But when we've just counted those that have left the program after they've stayed at least 90 days, so some of them stayed 9 months, they wanted to move on with their life, the statistic is 84%. So what we're seeing is that even if you don't stay the 2 years, I mean, I want you to stay 2 years, Amy. But I think what we're showing is that the likelihood of success is great. Like this, we don't even have 24-hour staff. I don't even have a full-time staff person.
I was reading that on your website, that you don't have 24-hour staff. So you pretty much depend on the residents to kind of run the show after hours, right? I mean,
well, that's funny you say that. That run the show is a funny term. I run the show.
You run the show. Yes. Okay.
We are a sisterhood. I love that, that this is a Sistahship chat I'm on.
Yes.
Because we're all adults and we are here to empower one another and check in with each other. In a family, when you live with each other, you check in. My husband knows where I'm at all the time. It's not because he's a tyrant. It's because I love him and he loves me and we care about each other. And the same thing with your kids. You know, if you have adult children living with you, usually you know where they're at, or they know where you're at. It's, you know, and that's kind of running the show at the home, is checking in with each other and saying, I'm going to be accountable to you because I care. And that's the benefit of living in community. I get to tell everybody else where I am. And that keeps us in check. So that's what we're relying on, the strength of living in community.
Okay. That's, I mean, the information, Carol, is overwhelming, but so great to hear of the successes. Annie, I wanted to ask you directly, though, what do you feel you're able to contribute to other women in the community of Bloom? What do you feel is your strong suit, I guess?
I feel like I like to share my story, and that there is hope. You know, there is a better way, and you know, people do care, and you know, I think that's important, and that was super important for me to keep me, you know, moving forward.
Right.
Like, so yeah, I believe that's the best that I can offer at this time.
Right. Well, just being there, I'm sure, and being involved in the group. I mean, I hear that you have a dinner every week, just all of you. Is that true? I think you had told me that, Carol, that there's a dinner on Monday evenings, or that you all sit around, and are some of those dinners, are they always very peaceful, or can they be very intense, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, they could be intense sometimes. That's where we kind of have our little talks in a meeting, and but for the most part, you know, they're respectful, and we all just take turns, and I think, you know, we enjoy having that night of ours to, like, you know, just provide for everyone else.
Right. Who does the cooking?
We all take turns. We alternate. There's 8 of us, so we each week one of us different chooses whatever we're gonna cook.
Yeah, you too, Carol? You cook?
Well, actually, next week I am cooking. Normally I don't. I just get to show up and I take dinner home for my husband. So Monday's my night not to cook. But I think what the whole premise behind the work that we do is that love heals. And that love is the greatest force for change in the world. And the Nashville program, that's their motto. And from the very beginning, I was there twice for a little bit of training, and they've supported us as with practical advice. They're a sounding board, and they help us, and they're leading the way. They're our sisters in Nashville that are leading in the way. And now we have access to a nationwide network where we connect with them monthly and talk about some of the challenges. And from the very beginning, they have told me that, really look through the lens of love. It sounds weird, but
no, it's not weird
in the situation. And while love is not permissive, and love is not judgmental, and love is believing in someone until they can believe in themselves. But it's also, keeping us accountable. But it's spending time. It's telling another person that I see you, and that your pain is not hidden from me, and that I will sit there with you. I won't minimize your pain. And this has to happen in times of reflection and listening. I mean, we meet together at a minimum 3 times a week. Monday is dinner. Wednesday and Friday mornings, we gather around a table and we light a candle. We read a little poem, and we are lighting the candle for the woman who's still out there suffering and searching for a way off the streets. And I don't take that lightly, and I don't think any community does. Sometimes it's harder than others to light it and say that there's conflict. But I think being grounded in this idea that love can change, love can soften, love can strengthen.
Yes.
Is what makes this different. And thankfully, we are still here. And that's
so. I wanted to ask this, though, as a woman or human being that's out there shopping or getting their nails done or whatever, what would you say I could look for to recognize a woman, a man, a child who may be experiencing or getting sucked into this type of culture?
Great question. I think usually the way this happens is subtly. we talked about grooming earlier on, and we see that in the Jeffrey Epstein case. That's a good example of a person in power that has means that may befriend someone or use someone else to befriend. So for a high school girl, if she's all of a sudden showing up with clothing or gifts that she didn't have before, and that someone is giving her gifts, or if she's spending a lot of time maybe chatting with someone on social media, this is super scary that kids are connecting with people that they don't even know on social media. So it's having a conversation with whoever you're connected with as a young person, and saying, do you know who these people are on social media? And to understand that these groomers are very, very good at what they do. It's sick, but there are books written out there on how to be a trafficker, how to groom a woman and lure her in. I'm serious. There's message boards. And the traffickers we have them on recording when they've been in court and when they're talking about, when they're testifying as to what they've done. They've strategically lure women in. So again, gifts that someone has gotten, someone saying that they've met someone online that's befriended them. What are they telling you? They're oftentimes, like I said, speaking into someone's vulnerability. She needs to feel loved or sense love, promises of taking care of you. And I think also talking about healthy relationships, which we do, I know at Women's Resources. Is there equal power in your relationship? Just even exploring that and saying, do you have a say in what's going on? And is anyone asking you to do something you're not uncomfortable, that you are uncomfortable with? Right. These might sound like normal things, but I think they might sound like understood. Things are understood. When you're in it, it's harder, I think, when you're in these positions in these places that have been known to have trafficking activities, like massage parlors or nail salons, I think is another, or even restaurants.
Yes.
Where, if you do get a chance to talk to someone, are they looking around wondering if someone is listening to your conversation? I mean, sometimes that's like an indicator that someone doesn't feel safe to express themselves. Right. Even asking that question, are you safe? Like, do you have safe housing? Those are weird questions to ask.
No, I've done it. I've done it in ShopRite. No, I've done it in ShopRite. Yes.
Right. And it's better to be embarrassed and say, I can't believe I asked that question, but silly of me, but I'm an advocate. And I'd like to stand up for the rights of women. You never know where they might have answered that question incorrectly and all of a sudden seemed fine, but we never know when it might be a catalyst for someone to change. Right. Make sure that the bathroom at your workplace, or that you can talk about what's going on, that you have those signs posted, that this is the human trafficking hotline, or where is it to go for help. These are things that we can become familiar with.
Yeah. I know I've had a few medical issues in the past few months, but always interesting to me when I've gone to the doctor or to the ER that they will ask me, are you safe? Are you safe in your environment? Is there anything you'd like to share? Do you live alone? Is there anyone that you feel is, might be dangerous in your life? And I always thank them for that, because I think it kind of gives me a little hope that somewhere along the way, for what the work that we all do, they're kind of getting it, like, oh, maybe I have to ask. So I hope that certainly continues. Annie, what do you see in your future for you? Tell me what you see yourself as in 2 years.
Well, that's a hard question. This is like new. I've never put this much time together and lived honestly in a very long time. So I don't know. Like think about mostly that, to be able to be a grandmother and be there and support my daughters through pregnancy, and like I'm going to be available and I'm going to be able to be there and like I support them now. And I think that's my biggest thing, is to be able to be a mom, and that my children deserve more than anything. Yeah.
And love them.
Love them, exactly.
Yeah. And I don't doubt that you've ever not loved them. I
Right.
mean, I hear you. I see a glow around you in regard to that, and I'm sure you're going to be a fantastic grandma. You know, I love being a grandma. Actually, don't get me started on that. That's a whole other show. But I'm sure you'll be a fantastic grandma. And I want to say, you're, like I said when you came on, you are a warrior and an inspiration to anyone listening that feels they need. They need to step out of a situation that they feel hopeless in. So, thank you for sharing that. And Carol, what's the future of Bloom for you? What do you see? I'm sure you'd like to have a big house with 1,000 beds and
I don't know about 1,000
Um,
beds. We'd love another house to have graduates move into where they can pay rent and still feel supported. Because there are some women in our program that we have 4 women that have been there longer than a year, and some of them, are going to be nearing their 2 years. And the thought of moving on, maybe they're ready and even have the financial means because they have a job. It's kind of stepping out on your own is scary, and leaving
Yes.
the supportive community. Even though we call them sisters for life when a woman graduates, but we would love to have another home where maybe people who have been in the program longer could move on to and pay us, a reasonable rent that they can
Right.
afford, and we could still surround them, and they could mentor newer women in the program. It would free up a bed for someone else.
Right.
Love to see our business grow, our studio grow. We have some ideas for how to do that, but we need financial resources to do that. And all of the money that comes into the studio or donations given to our nonprofit go back into the program.
Mhm.
So we run a very lean ship. But I mean, that's what I would love to see, us grow, is
Right.
just become more stable. And I know that these are difficult times, with the pandemic.
Sure.
We're still getting through that. We're all safe. No one's gotten sick, thankfully. But we just want to share the message that love heals and that it's never
Yeah.
too late to start over.
So I did a little research on the store, and I was wondering if you could just share with us some of the programs that they offer for the public who would want to participate. Because as you said, when people come in and take advantage of the programs, the money goes to your cause. So would you
Right.
share with us some of the things that go on there that might
Sure.
interest people listening?
Yeah, I mean, Annie, you want to talk a little about what we can do here at the studio?
Sure. We have open studio where people can come in and create on their own and use our
Paints,
our
tools,
paints and tools and stuff like
supplies.
that. Supplies was the word. We also do workshops. We do mosaics. We're working a lot with clay right now. We've also had an artist come in, and we've been working with her for the last however many weeks. So it's just like we just get it out in the community, who we are and what our purpose is. And a lot of people come just to support that.
Mhm.
I found that a lot, like people that really know about Bloom and what it's about, that a lot of people just come here and purchase things that we make because we sell them in the front of the store, or just come in and donate sometimes, just to support us. And I think that is just like empowering, right, for women that are trying to start over. And yeah, so I love that about this studio.
Yeah. Do you have programs for children? Or
We used to have a kids art program, and we don't have that anymore because of the pandemic right now.
right,
But
right.
you can come in anytime we're open. Youth can come in. People can come in with their kids or their grandkids, nieces and nephews, or just a young person. And we have a lot of project blanks that you can purchase, like wooden things, and they can paint and create something. It's a great way to make a special personalized gift for the holidays.
Yes.
We hope to have a pop-up cafe happening, making some just delicious things that are it's going to be a very limited menu, but we hope that will happen in the next month or so. So we have like maybe 1 or 2 days a week a pop-up cafe, so we can give out some loving hospitality to our community.
Very nice. I will go on record. I will be glad to make you some crumb cakes or Danish or whatever and donate it. I'd be glad to do that.
Awesome.
I'd be glad to do that.
And
Can I give you the National Human
I
Trafficking
was just going
Hotline?
to ask you, yeah, if you can give us
So
that information.
there is a national hotline where anyone who wants to learn more, they can go to polarisproject.org and learn about human trafficking, or they can call 888-373-7888. So that's 888-373-7388 to report human trafficking, or to, if they're a victim and they need help. Certainly they can go to our website, bloombanger.org, and learn about our program, find out about things going on at the studio. And if you want to make an online donation, we're always open to that. That really helps us keep the lights on and the doors open for Annie and the other women home. And then also our Facebook page has just some inspiring quotes, and we blog weekly about the program, and also there's our events for what's coming up for the studio.
Yeah, I was going to just ask you quickly, because we're running out of time here. The events that you have, do they include the community? Are you out there in different areas of the community? What exactly are the events?
Right now we're just doing workshops here in our studio. So that's really where all the tools are. So we work with clay, with glass mosaic and glass fusion here in the studio.
Okay.
And then you can also make a wooden sign or a pillow. You can personalize things with Annie designs some sayings and personalized signs that you can make here.
Yeah, I saw some of the woodwork. I guess you do woodworking?
Wood signs, yeah.
Yeah, some of them were beautiful. You know, we should have had you bring a couple examples to kind of show, but oh, you have one. Okay, good. Nice. Oh, nice. I love it. So it comes actually just like that.
We can make these. Yeah, you can make these. We have a couple different size. They're even little ones. Here's an example of a glass mosaic that you can make. These are pine cones, but we love using, this is broken glass that turns into something beautiful. We kind of makes us think of our broken lives.
I was going to say broken lives, and you can turn it into something positive. Yep. Wonderful, wonderful. So. Again, the hour went by very quickly, and Annie, thank you so much for being brave and coming and sharing your story with us, because I think so often we don't hear you, or people don't hear you. I hear you. We need to make sure everyone does hear you. And Carol, again, thank you for the work you're doing. It's always a pleasure to run into you and talk to you and speak to you. And, you know, we will continue. We'll put all of this information on our website, of course, and hopefully we'll have you back to Sistahship very soon.
Okay, well, thank you for having us. Thanks for all you guys do for raising awareness. And
thank you. Thank you. Well, great producers, Tiffany and Mama C. We always appreciate everything that they do. This is their baby, so they lift women in every aspect. So thank you for that. And thank you again, everyone, for listening. We appreciate what your support, and the fact that you are always listening into all the shows that we have. So thank you once again, and everyone have a great and safe day.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. This was so inspiring.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we on a sister ship. Come with us, we on a sister ship. Yeah, we on a sister ship. Roll with us, we on a sister ship.
Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. Substance, each other, get over some things, build strength, bring change. Cause we've been through the rain, now it's time to shine like bling. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to right wills. We rolling out of poverty, love heals. So we become the prodigy of how a sistership could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands, support each other dreams and our plans, doing everything we can. Come on. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship, fam. Live life on purpose. Together we learn it. Yeah, let's talk. We don't wanna see you hurt, and we here for each other, no matter the color. Networking, that's for sure and for certain. Come on.
Yeah, we on a sistership. Come with us, we on a sistership. Yeah, we on a sistership. Roll with us, we on a sistership.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya.
Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.